Hi, Kimberly. Welcome to the How to Be a Redhead podcast. How are
The
you?
Redheads unite! Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yay! Redheads Unite is right. And we want to get right into it. A question we like to ask all of our guests who are redheads. What was it like for you personally growing up with red hair?
Oh my goodness. I bet every redhead says the same thing. Teased, 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 and then more teased, right? I hated my
Yeah.
red hair as a child, mostly because I felt so different and all the different names all the kids would call me from, like, I don't know, Ginger or Casper. I have like freckles and very pale skin. That's not about the red hair, but it all kind of comes together sometimes for redheads.
Hmm.
Strawberry Fields I got a lot, which I suppose, since that's sort of a reference to the Beatles,
Oh,
maybe isn't that bad. But as a kid, I didn't know, and I was
yeah.
like, why are they
Yeah.
calling me that? But I think the worst was like red-headed stepchild. What is that all about, right?
I
I mean,
know.
what is I
It's
was
such an insult. Yeah.
right? Did you guys get teased as kids too?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we
We were so
did.
different. We were the only redheads in our school, and yeah, we faced, a
Hmm.
lot of people always pointing us out for being different, but funny part is I don't Steph, I don't even know this about you, but I never heard the word ginger ever
Mm.
until I was in my mid-20s. And I know some people grow up with that, and they grow up with loving the name or hating the name. I prefer redhead. I prefer being called a redhead. But Steph, when did you first hear it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I really don't remember hearing about it in middle school or high school. We went to a very small school from preschool to eighth grade. And then after eighth grade, most of the kids then went to the same high school.
Mm.
But no, I never heard the word ginger, I guess, till after. And then I think I honestly started to hear about it and know that redheads were being referred to it when we started How to Be a
I
Redhead.
think so. Yeah, yeah, yeah. For some reason, we were
Because then
teased,
we
but never
started
called
hearing from
that.
followers. Yeah, yeah. We were never, I have a lot of freckles, and I remember there were a few kids in my class who would be like, "Can we connect the dots?" And that doesn't seem as worse as some other terms and things that redheads have been called. We've heard, but when you're young, you're fragile. You don't have confidence. So for anyone to say anything,
Hmm.
to connect the freckles or even worse, you just don't want to be singled out, and I was because of my freckles. So I think that was where, like, I wanted to hide them all the time, and I grew obviously to love them. And now we've talked about this so many times on our podcast now, on TikTok, so many people are trying to replicate like putting faux freckles on. But yeah, I don't think we heard the word ginger. We did have a teacher who called us big and little red. And again, that's not horrible, but when you're getting singled out as the two in the school because our school was so small, you just don't want to be
For
singled
sure.
out.
Yeah, yeah.
When the teacher's calling everyone their first name and then calling Adrian and I big and little red, you think, okay, why am I being referred to as that? I am different, and then being different, it just is like a domino effect. It just
You guys
doesn't,
had each
yeah, it's not
other.
good.
Did that help
That's
or
true.
not?
That's true.
We did. I think that really did help,
I think
Adrian.
it did help. Our dad's a redhead, and our mom is like the most uber confident woman you've like ever met. Sometimes like so much I can't believe it, and
Yeah.
in a weird way. But I think that we kind of leaned on them too. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, Kimberly, like it was really hard for me. I loved my red hair from the start,
Mhm.
but embracing my fair skin was my hardest
Yeah.
thing to accept. I don't know how was that for you growing up?
Yeah, it's still a drag.
Yeah.
Just because, like, I'm so pale, like translucent, you can see like the veins in my under my eye, it's like blue or purple or whatever. And it's like, I've just always, I still wear a hat and sunscreen. I'm not trying to go out and get tan, like I'm sure a lot of maybe people did, but I mean, yeah, it's a drag. It's a drag.
Yeah, I know,
And
I know.
are you the only redhead in your
Yeah.
family? Do you come from a family of redheads? You're the only
Right. It's
one.
interesting that your dad was, because I had always heard that it skips a generation,
I
but I didn't.
know, I know. His
Yeah.
mom was, he
We
was,
don't
and then we
Oh,
know.
were.
wow,
Yeah.
that's fascinating.
Yeah, but we don't know as far back as like where our
Right,
grandmothers got
right.
it,
No, because
Adrian.
like they're like from Italy, so like we don't know
Oh, that's
how that happened.
And it has to be on both sides. And our dad, our papa, our dad's dad, 100% Italian. His mom came from Italy. So we don't know. He has to have had the gene to then give it,
Some
you know,
dominant
for my
thing.
dad to be a
Yeah.
redhead. So it's very, very interesting. But we hear where we're from in Italy that there are a lot of redheads. We've never been yet, but we've heard
Yeah,
that.
it's so
Fun
cool.
That'd be a fun trip.
Yeah.
A lot of
And
people think
Yeah.
that I'm Irish, but we're actually from Scotland, like way back. My grandmother did
Okay.
genealogy and traced us back to a clan in Scotland that assassinated Queen of Mary Scott's secretary in some big scandal, and they had to go into hiding and
Oh, wow.
some kind of, I don't know, exciting tale. But there's like Scottish. It's the Scots side.
yeah, and they say Scotland
Wow.
is like where the most redheads are in the world, you know, in terms of
Yeah.
just, yeah, by population. I think that it's like the most, even more than Ireland.
Oh, I
So,
had never heard that. Oh, that makes me feel good. I like that.
yeah. Stephanie and I keep talking about going to Scotland just to experience the culture and the country, but it could be really, really cool. So,
And then hop
um,
over to
Mhm.
Italy.
I know. Why
Yeah,
not? Why
yes.
not? So, what pursued your career in acting? And I had to say too, when we
Yeah.
were reading all about you, we were such big fans of 90210 growing up, as you know, growing up in the 90s. So,
I think we were a little too young to watch it, but we watched
oh
it.
yeah, we were too
Adrian.
young, but still loved it. Like I
Yeah.
still remember like
Oh,
wanting to be
loved.
grown up so bad because I used to love to watch that show. So,
I was
anyway, we are.
Same.
I was same. I was like every Wednesday night when it was on, like I planned my evenings around it. I
Oh
was in
yeah,
the sequel or like the remake of it. So
the
I wasn't
remake of
in
it.
the
Yeah,
original,
Yeah.
but in that, which I still think was really kind of cool because of being a
so
90210
cool.
fan too. But to answer your first question about like how I pursued it, like what made me want to pursue it as a child,
Mm-hmm.
or that's when it started for me as a child. So I grew I grew up in a small mountain town about an hour south of San Francisco in the San Francisco Bay Area of
Mm,
Okay.
California. Very small town where everybody knows everybody. And this new
mm.
girl came into town, and her name was Kira Troutman. If you're out there, Kira, please somehow get a hold of me because I haven't talked to her since I was like 11 years old. Really eventually moved away.
Kira, if you
Came
can hear
into
me.
town and we became fast friends, and she had been Annie in a play somewhere, and I was just so enamored with that. And then we started doing, I think we convinced our like elementary school teacher to let us put on a play, and then we started doing all these plays at school. And another friend that lived on the street had a little stage in her, like a platform stage in her backyard, and we would write plays and make our parents watch and all that fun stuff. So it started really young, and just I feel kind of like blessed, I guess, or just really lucky that I knew from a young age what I wanted to do. Because there's
Yeah.
some people in their 30s, 40s, they still don't know what they want to do with their lives. So I feel lucky about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That is. And how has being a redhead influenced your casting opportunities? Do you feel like it has?
I think for me, in my opinion, it's made it harder because I feel like it's
Harder.
harder
Okay.
because, we're like unicorns being the reds, and it's it's I feel like Hollywood just can't envision two redheads on screen unless they're a family, right? So there could be two blondes in a story or two brunettes, but two
Mm.
redheads, oh no, that just can't be. I remember an audition um when I first started auditioning for like real big TV shows and movies. I was auditioning for CSI, and the casting director loved me and spent like 20 minutes talking to me. Now this was before COVID, so everything was in person, all the
Okay.
auditions. And
Okay.
normally you'd kind of go in and out, might be 5 minutes. And she just was talking up a storm, and then she said, Kimberly, I really loved what you did, but I'm going to be honest and tell you the truth. We just hired the actor that's going to be playing the husband for this role, and he is a redhead, and I know the producers just will never take you. I was like, okay, thanks for telling me. And so it's like, what can you do about that? Nothing. There's nothing you can do.
Nothing.
And
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
What
on,
about wearing a wig or any of
well, they
those
give me that
opportunities?
option. I think
Mm,
sometimes it's just easier for them to, I mean, sometimes they might wig you. I have had that experience, but I think sometimes they just want it.
they'll
It's
just
just easier for them to
recast
go find a
someone
blonde
else.
or whatever there's
Yeah.
so many people here. Um,
Right.
but I also feel like that, at least for me, the red hair has a life of its own. And I was on this ABC show called Fresh Off the Boat, which was on for 6 seasons. And I did like 10 or
Yeah.
11 episodes kind of spattered throughout. And I remember, so I watched the show even on the episodes I wasn't in. And there was an episode where the two main characters that play the parents, Randall Park and Constance Wu, were talking about my character. Oh, Lisa and her red hair, and being all like as if it was a big sassy thing. I wasn't even in the episode and they were talking about my red hair. So it just feels like it has a life of its own sometime. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it definitely does. And I find that interesting about two redheads, you know, in a show or a movie, because you don't see it unless what you said, Kimberly, if they're a family, if they're related, if they're two sisters maybe, or a mom and a daughter. But that is interesting, because then we don't blink an eye if there's two brunettes or two blondes. So it yeah. Or the fact, the CSI, how he had red hair, so they probably didn't want people to think that you guys were siblings, or how they sometimes we get Adrian's husband's a redhead, but a lot of redheads have written into us over the years, and they're like, oh, everyone thinks I'm related to my husband because he's a redhead. But if you see two brunettes or two blondes, you don't think that.
Right.
It's just something with the
Yeah,
redheads.
it's like discrimination, really, in a way.
Yeah.
Totally crazy. But I mean, even you guys have probably heard like that sperm banks don't accept redhead donations now. Have you heard that?
I know. Is that still a
Oh,
thing?
I read that now it's like turned over since COVID. Like I read that people weren't wanting redheads, but now all of a sudden, because like redhead is like the new thing and trendy, like now they can't get enough redheads.
Oh, well,
that's what I was reading. So I think
Okay.
but I think just 10 years ago, they weren't even accepting redhead
yeah.
sperm donors, and now they want them.
Well, I love that. That's great.
Yeah. I know.
And has there ever been a time where you've had a specific role where they casted you
Just
because
of your red hair? Have they shared that with you?
I don't know the answer to that. Nothing's coming off the top of my head. So I'm thinking,
or maybe they casted you maybe because you did have red hair,
maybe
but
they
they didn't
just
share
didn't
that
tell.
with you.
Very possible.
Maybe.
I mean,
Yeah.
in the Fresh Off the Boat, I was in a gaggle of women. Like we were these neighborhood ladies. Well, no, because there was a redhead in the first episode with me. There was two. Oh, I'm saying
Oh, there were two. And you guys weren't related?
no, we weren't. We were friends, but then she wasn't. She was only in a few episodes, and then it was just me. Then I was the only redhead, and there was two blondes and a brunette.
Of course. They love that. They love that trifecta.
Yeah, right.
And this is one of my favorite questions to ask a natural redhead.
Actor.
But would you ever dye your hair for a role?
I think it would have to be a really good thing, because if I was going to keep it, I haven't had that experience where I've been wigged for a show. Wasn't a show. I was in Steel Magnolias, a theater production, and there was another actress that was playing one of the older characters who had this bright red hair, and they wanted her to keep it because it fit her character.
Okay,
so they put a blonde wig on me, which was fine. And it was different to be blonde for like the first time ever. But I think I would. I suppose. I think it would be maybe like really dark. Something
dark.
Wouldn't that be fun to just be that? Because I've always just been red, always my whole life. I'm more strawberry blonde naturally, so this is a bit enhanced.
Okay. No, it looks.
I know,
really
and we
good.
want to talk. Yeah. We want to talk about the vibrancy of your hair. That's actually a question that I was just going to ask, because we know that you mentioned that you enhance your hair. So how do you do that? And did you feel? And when did that journey start? Did you notice that you were experiencing fading red hair?
Because so many redheads do. This is so common.
Yeah.
Same,
well,
yeah.
The funny thing is, maybe the embarrassing thing to admit is it's not really that I enhance like for vibrancy, but it's really, I just kind of say that tongue in cheek, meaning I color my hair because of the grays.
Yeah, of course. No, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Showing, I got to do something. So it's like an actor, you have headshots and you're supposed to resemble your headshots. And so I had an audition for something and roots were showing. I was like, oh no, I better go to the drugstore and get some hair color. And there was no red at all. And like all the other blondes and variations of brunettes and, full, but then where the reds would be, like empty, like there was a run on red. I don't know. So I had to go like to 10 different drugstores. And then my fiance went to a bunch on the other side of town and we just could barely find anything. And I must have found something at some point. This was probably maybe 10 years or so ago. I don't remember exactly, but I was like, I got to find something so I'm not stuck in this position again. And at some point I must have like gone to the beauty supply and, done that route, but that wasn't cutting it for me. And I started using e-salon, which is, they mail it to you. And it's like specially formulated
for you. We've worked with them. Yeah.
It's fantastic. So you can send in color of your current hair and then pictures of other people, even of what you want it to be. And then they'll kind of tweak it until it's exactly right. And they'll ship it to you and however many,
And you still use them.
I still use it to this day.
Wow.
So the tricky part is when the roots are showing, but I'm not ready to just color the whole thing. And then, there's different like sprays or powders or whatever that you
roots
cover.
out. Yeah.
And that just always doesn't tend to work for me because then it just feels sticky or whatnot. And I somehow got a sample of this NARS like bronzer that I guess people put on their bodies or face. And I was like, oh, it's the right color. I have it right here. It's the right color. I'm going to try it on my head. The color is Laguna. And it's
Laguna. I was going to ask, is it Laguna bronzer? That was actually one of
like covers the perfect like shade. It's fantastic.
Wow. Oh my God. My really good friend in high school loved Laguna bronzer, but it's a classic. It's a staple. I think it's been around for over 20 years, but wow. So you put that on, do you have to reapply throughout the day though? Or do you feel like it holds? No,
it just stays there. It's great.
Love that.
I love that tip. And and you can apply it as a bronzer.
It's meant to be, but it doesn't get like cakey or, when you do the sprays or any, like there's some.
The powder kind of like lets you live. Yeah.
Like there's some that are in like a mascara type of tube and then it just feels all sticky and clumpy and that just never worked for me. But this is just like it's great. I love it.
That's awesome.
Wow. And then how often do you have to use e-salon?
I'm doing like once a month, maybe.
Okay.
Once a month, but it's so funny listening to some of your past episodes. I don't know how I never caught on to the train about how bad color depositing shampoo is. I didn't even know that was a bad thing. And I'm like listening, I'm like, oh my goodness. Then I started doing all this research. I don't know how I missed the boat on that, y'all, but that's a sad thing. Like, what's the deal with that? What's the story with that?
Wait, so
some of them,
yeah, it depends.
Are you talking about the ingredients in them?
Like they're bad for you, yeah?
It depends. There are a lot of great brands. We're developing some right now. But yeah, you have to be very careful with the ingredients and what you're putting in. And I think luckily a lot of people are becoming more aware of like what they use in their beauty products. And really it's become standard now to have sulfate free, paraben free, but it really boggles my mind that, yeah, I mean, there are so many redheads who could go get a color depositing product and then it does something bad to their hair because it's not natural or, natural ingredients derived or something like that. But yeah, you have to really, really be careful with what you put on your hair. I mean, it's so important.
Yeah. So I'm so grateful that you guys have this podcast because it's not just entertaining, but you're educating. You're educating us and others. So I was really grateful to have learned that.
Thank you. We love it. And in preparation, we prepare a lot for these podcasts. So in talking about preparation, how do you prepare for a role and for TV and for films? How do you go about preparing to make sure? Because Stephanie and I are very, very, always planning ahead, always making sure that like we are prepared for whatever we're doing. And so I was wondering as an actress, what you have done in the past to get ready.
Yeah, it's so important as well. There are certainly a lot of actors who just sort of wing it, and there could be little magic moments that come out of that. But I am like a type A OCD needing to know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So there's a giant preparation involved, depending on the size of the role, really. If it's a bigger role, there's like breaking down the scene and asking yourself all these questions about what your character wants and what their obstacles are in the relationships and that type of thing, and character analysis, what makes them tick and what are their struggles and those types of things. And sometimes when you get auditions, the casting director supplies the actor with some of those key traits about your characters. And sometimes it's just, woman, 40s, any ethnicity. That's all you get.
Okay.
So it's
Right.
kind of
So
about
very, very,
mining the
yeah.
script to try to find all that fun stuff, which is a
Mhm.
lot of what I teach, because I want actors to
Right.
feel confident. And, if you're prepared, then
Yeah.
you just feel more confident. You can just really shine and just kind of let all that preparation just happen.
Redheads, have you heard?
We aired on ABC's Shark Tank, episode 14, season 15. We are busy developing products and continuing to grow this incredible Redhead lifestyle brand.
Check out our mascara and eyebrow products in red hot shades, hair care, merch, lifestyle items, and so much more. Redheads, we can now rejoice.
Finally, there are products for us.
Use code podcast to get 15% off your next purchase. Shop at shop.howtobearedhead.com.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we're going to be
Yeah.
talking about your acting coaching too.
Your coaching, which is really cool.
But to give our listeners a little bit more of a background too, you've worked with directors like James Franco, JK Simmons. How was that? James Franco, I'm such a fan.
Yeah, he was a
Yeah.
delight. And he was also starring in the movie. He was just a delight,
Cool.
and
Wow.
JK, I
Yeah.
played his wife. So JK, he won the Oscar. James, I believe,
Yeah.
was nominated too. These are like big
Yeah.
people. And so
Mhm.
a lot of times, I don't know about for other actors, but there's a little bit of like maybe nervousness before you
Yeah.
meet them.
Butterflies.
Are they going to be nice and all that stuff. And both of them were the loveliest men, just so kind and just open and they were just fantastic. And sometimes like bigger names are a little quieter on set, or they might like keep to themselves a little bit and they don't really chit chat or have lunch with you. And sometimes they're just, like your best friend all of a sudden. There's a funny story. I did a movie with Gabriel Byrne from the usual suspects. I think it was Usual Suspects. And he was kind of keeping to himself on the day that I was there with him. And so I thought, okay, I wanted to like get a picture with him, but I didn't want to bother him. He's doing his own thing. And at the end of the day, he came up to me and said, Kimberly, would it be okay if we took a photo together? You look just like my friend Julie Moore. He called her Julie Moore. And I want to text it to her.
You do look so much
You
like
do.
her.
I get
You
that a
do.
lot.
I was gonna. You really do.
You really
it's the cheekbones and the chin, and the way that your hair falls. Like it's like really just. You guys have a lot of similarities.
And I was gonna ask you after if you get asked if people stop you and you're.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. I hear
you-
Julianne Moore more than anybody.
Julianne Moore. Do you feel like you look like her?
So I think we could be.
Yeah, you do.
And she's lovely. So it's such a big, it's a treat when people say that.
Have you ever met her?
I haven't met her, but she saw that photo of me.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
It's like, here's your doppelganger, Julianne Moore. No, you do look so much like her, even when you smile.
Yeah, the smile. Yeah, I agree. It's. And so tell us about another great moment. You were on Scandal.
Yes.
We loved that show. It just, I love, about going to Vermont with the blueberry pie and whatever she wanted to do with him, to just, go away and fall in love.
And the way that she always filled up her wine glass was like a goblet in the show.
I mean, that
with the popcorn.
With the popcorn.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I still eat popcorn almost every night. I love Scandal. I mean, I was addicted to Scandal, and I never thought I would be cast on that show because I feel like I also look like the actress who played Abby, Darby. Stanfield.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Darby. Yeah, she's from Alaska.
And
yeah.
I feel like we look very similar, and I was like, I'll never get cast on that show. And I went in and they cast me, and I was so thrilled because I got to play a B613 spy agent. It was so fun. It was so fun. So the story, okay, you wanted a story. It's kind of a twofold story. So I end up dying in the episode. I get stabbed in the back 3 times. And so there's a scene where I am laying on the ground with like in a body bag type of a situation, right? And all the other main guys are walking around trying to figure out, I guess, what to do with the bodies. I can't remember. And this one actor, I'm not going to say who it is, but he was not one of the series regulars. But he kept kicking me as they would run, and he had steel.
Because you're in the bag.
I'm laying on the ground dead, and I'm just a guest on the show. I don't want to I should have really spoken up and advocated for myself, but I didn't want to. He just kept running by and grazing me with that steel toe boot, and I don't know if this had anything to do with it, but I feel like it did. So earlier, or maybe one of the first days, because I think I was there for 3 or 4 days, I was off to the side, just minding my own business, reading a book. And I was reading In Dubious Battle by John Steinbeck, because that was the James Franco movie I was about to go shoot a few weeks later.
Okay.
So I was like, well, I better read the novel and, prepare myself. And so I'm off to the corner, just, minding my own business in between takes and whatnot. And he came up to me and was very friendly and was like, hey, what are you doing? What are you reading? And I told him, I'm reading In Dubious Battle by John Steinbeck. And he said, why? And I was like, I can't be reading a novel. Like, what's wrong? It was just weird. And then he wouldn't stop kicking me. It was the weirdest thing.
Did he have a crush? Did he have a crush?
Maybe he had a thing.
Yeah, did he have a crush on you?
No, man. Like when you.
I feel like that's immature. I'm assuming he's an adult, but.
Oh, yeah. But everybody else was amazing.
Except for that one.
Like I say, he wasn't one of the series regulars. So, don't try to figure out who it is. But who knows what his issue was. But. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
It was bizarre, but it was really fun to play like a spy, because I get cast as a lot of mom characters. I love the moms, or like businesswomen. So this was like a different kind of thing. So it was really fun.
Complete opposite. Yeah. And how do you feel like the industry has changed since you started your career when you were really young?
What's changed is when I first started, the headshots, the photos that we would use to try to get auditions and whatnot, they were all black and white. And that was kind of a bummer as a redhead. And so redheads sometimes would put a sticker on the bottom that said redhead. And then eventually the redheads started getting them printed like sepia tone, that kind of reddish tint, like a black and white picture. But then everything turned color. And now photos are all color, thank goodness.
Okay, so people know right away that obviously you're a redhead. Do you have to put for your, on your headshot, is there information about you? And do you have to say redhead or natural red hair?
So it's on your it's not on the actual picture, but it's on the resume if they look up like your training and credits and whatnot. It's listed.
Okay. And you have to put natural redhead?
Don't. You just put redhead. Look, face.
Oh.
Cool. That's cool.
No, I mean, yeah, like anyone can just dye it. Yeah. And what role do you feel like has been most challenging for you?
That's a juicy question. I think it probably, like, if it's super dramatic and I'm dying or crying, I love that stuff. That's really easy to me. I think just actors are dramatic just anyway. I feel like the really small roles are the hardest. So if it's like you just have like one line or a few lines. And for me, because even though I do preparation and I'm ready and it seems like it'd be easy if all you're saying is, do you want cream and sugar in your coffee? Like a really small role. Yeah. But those are the trickiest, because it's like your heart is beating. You have 10 seconds to make sure you do it right. And those tend to be the trickiest, I think. I actually teach a class in that. They're called co-stars because they're the hardest. They're the hardest to book. And sometimes they can be the trickiest ones to perform. If you have 3 scenes and you have all this dramatic, lovely stuff, you can really sink your teeth in. But when it's just a small little thing, it's a little more challenging.
Okay. And then that brings us to what we wanted to ask, where you are right now with coaching. So how did you go from acting to coaching? When did you know?
And do you enjoy it more?
That, oh my gosh. Yeah. Because it is so different.
I love it. Love it. I love inspiring actors and, just empowering them and motivating of all ages, because I work with kids, teens, and adults. in the year 2000, whoo, that was a long time ago. I started as an actor. I started going to Actorsite. So that's the school that I own with my business partner, Amber Bohack. And so I started there as an actor, taking classes and doing workshops and whatnot. And the founder, his name is JP Turnbull, and we lost him during COVID. And he just saw something in me. I probably saw me talking to some kids and just being quirky and kooky.
Yeah.
And was like, hey, you want to come help me teach some kid classes? And I was like, sure, I'll try that. And then over the next 18, 20 years, I helped him build the whole youth division, but also I started working with the adults as well. I just love it. It also keeps me like attached to what's going on in town, like in Hollywood. If I'm not, there might be a stretch where I'm not auditioning myself, but I know what's going on because I'm hearing about all the auditions and everything that's going on. So it's a real honor for me to kind of keep his legacy alive. So I'm just, it's a real blessing. I love Actorsite. It's great. It's all virtual now. After COVID, we just stayed virtual.
Oh, it's all virtual. Okay. And what age does it start?
Like the youngest we've worked with is 4, up to like 84.
Oh my gosh.
So, and it used, we used to have a studio space, but then, COVID changed everything. And afterwards we were just like, this is working because we can work with actors all over the world. So I work with actors in England and in Europe and in Australia, and I've had students in China, like just all over the place. I mean, the majority of them are here in America, but they're all over, and it's in Canada. It's fantastic to be able to have an impact on so many people like worldwide. So it's just like a real honor.
Yeah, I was thinking about COVID too and how it's really changed, because we've talked to a lot of actors on this podcast, and they said that all of their auditions now are on Zoom or on recording, no longer in person. And has that been changing, or is it still the same? Is everyone still doing it online?
Primarily the same. I hear that a lot of commercial actors are getting to be able to go in person to do, but not all of them. I haven't had a single in person since before COVID. I like it. Wow. I personally like it.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, a lot of actors are like, oh, I really want to be in the room with them and get the feedback and whatnot. But they didn't, we didn't get a lot of feedback.
Anyway,
they had all, you know what I mean? But I prefer to be able to, do it 10 times before I, tape it 10 times if I need to get it like exactly what I want it to be. So yeah, it's definitely a new world. And I don't really see it going back to the old way.
I was just going to ask, do you see it changing back to how it was? But okay. You don't.
I don't think so. Well, I guess
people, maybe it's also a lot easier. It's cost effective. You don't have to rent, you don't have to do all the logistics with
and you don't have to drive everywhere
audition
and go to these auditions.
You don't have to drive across town or get on the subway. And I think for many of the casting directors, they don't have to rent a studio space like Stephanie was saying. I mean, some of them could have spaces like given to them by the production on the different studio lots, but some of them would have to go rent a space on their own. So, and I think also there's a lot more opportunity for actors because they're seeing more people because they get more videos than they could see in human form in a day. Yeah, there's a lot more opportunity for actors that aren't necessarily in one of the major markets, which is kind of a cool thing.
Yeah. And then with Actorsite, just wondering, have you seen success stories? It must be really cool to coach and then you see
their progression,
someone go off and do a great role maybe.
Yes. I mean, I can't, I don't want to name any names because then the ones who I don't say will be like, why didn't you mention me? I thought I was your specialty. But I can't watch TV in a single week and not see one of my students in a commercial or their first role in a little TV show or as a series regular, or I've had people in like huge movies, Marvel movies, Avengers, like giant movies, or on Broadway. I've worked with a lot of actors. So
that's amazing.
It's funny because my family, they're sick of hearing it. Literally every week. It just, I'm like,
you're like, oh my God, did you see this person?
Yeah, they just are so sick of it. And I'll like cheer, and they're like, oh, another one.
So what would you do if you could pick for the rest of your life? You could only do you could only do one thing, whether it's Actorsite or being an actor.
Coaching.
Oh, that's
Which one would you
so
choose?
it's
Mm.
like I feel like
Ooh,
I would want to say acting, but I get so much joy, especially out of
I
working
can
with
tell.
young people.
Mm,
You know, sometimes with the kids, especially like kids and teens, I might be one of the only sources of like them getting complimented that day or just lifting their
Yeah.
spirits. Or, you know, sometimes the teens will talk to me about boys or sometimes the
yeah.
kids will call me mom and like slip out
Can
of
really
their mouth.
confide in
Yeah.
you.
So it's
Yeah.
I enjoy that. And then even with the adults, like sometimes, you know, adults we take things to heart more. So well, maybe not that true. That might not be true, but I just love it. I love it. I really enjoy it.
I can tell. I love that. And I was
Yeah.
wondering too what you teach your students and yourself about this topic. So on Instagram you mentioned how comparison can motivate sometimes, but all other times it can be soul sucking, and I'm sure there's a lot of comparison when you are an actor. So
Yeah.
what ways do you limit this for yourself, especially for your mental health? And what advice would you give people listening or anyone about comparing themselves to others?
Yeah, that is so true, really, in just
I
life,
know.
not just for actors, but I think
Yeah.
Life.
just like in everything, I think the the kind of obvious thing, but I'm going to say it anyway, is that so what people see on social media is not real life.
I
For the
know.
most part,
Yeah.
you know, even like
No.
some fancy influencer with like the perfect house and the perfect outfit and all that stuff. If you had seen the house 10 minutes before they recorded it, probably looked like a tornado ran through, right?
Mhm.
So for me,
Mhm.
I feel like, and I mean, I'm on all the social, you know, I'm always
Yeah.
scrolling on Instagram and stuff. So if I see something, if it doesn't inspire me and make me feel like, oh, I could do that too, or oh, I should try that, or oh, that's really cool, then I just take a time out. I'm like, I might mute them for a little bit. It has nothing to do with them. It's just like for my own mental
Yeah.
health, for my own sanity. I just know I don't need to be looking at that for a while, or I'll just
Mhm.
click off
Yeah.
altogether and just like go for a walk outside with my
Yeah.
dog or something.
Yeah.
It's just
It's almost like not human. I don't know if you guys feel that way, but it's like sometimes I feel
Yeah.
like it's not like I know obviously it's not good for mental health to be scrolling and seeing things that are unpleasant to see. But I do think that being cautious of that is so important because sometimes you can be like, why
yeah,
am I feeling so bad? And you're like, oh, because I just saw that on Instagram. And I'm sure it's happened to all of us. And it's just like this deep hole that you can go down and it's not healthy. So I think what you do is great. I mute things all the time. It has nothing to do with them or the
Me
brand.
too.
They might have
I
just
also unfollow
yeah,
things.
I just feel like if
Yeah.
and my rule in life, and people think it's harsh, I've talked about it before, is if anything steals my joy, I immediately cut it out.
yeah,
And that's sometimes something that someone posts and I'm like, "Oh, that stole my joy. Bye."
yeah.
And the same with anything in life. I just don't feel like it's too short and too precious to spend
Mhm.
upset or, and
Yeah.
continuing that pattern.
I love that. And I think the trick is being aware of it, you know, so that
Yeah, I
you real
agree.
like you said, oh,
Mhm.
why am I feeling that way? So like being able to ask yourself that is
Yeah.
it's such a great thing.
Yeah.
Like I have little stickies all over my house and little reminders type of like affirmation type of things.
You do? I love that.
I
Like
love
on your
that. I
bathroom
need
and
to do
stuff? I
Yeah,
that.
should do that.
like even right here, there was one somewhere that said, food fuels me." Food gives me energy. That's what it says. So I got to remind myself, oh, I got to eat lunch. You know, I get this
Yeah.
pop up. I'm like, oh, I need to power my body.
Yeah.
I'll
And
find
I have to ask too
Yeah.
before we go, but
it.
you're wearing a beautiful blue and I think you have a green top on.
Yeah.
A So those are such like redhead friendly colors, they're so pretty. What colors do you
Yes.
love to wear with your red hair the most?
Yeah, I love these jewel
Ooh.
tones. And then more, I
Same.
Yeah.
probably have more black in my, is that even considered a color in my wardrobe than
Yeah.
Yeah.
anything. I definitely, for some reason, grew up thinking I couldn't wear red. I don't know why. I don't know if a lot of redheads hear that, but
Right.
Mhm.
right,
Same
or
here.
even
Yep.
pink,
Yep.
right? But I'm trying to like get more pink in my wardrobe. I guess it's just I like
Mhm.
to something that contrasts, you know,
Yep.
with the hair
Mhm.
Yeah.
and the pale. So yeah, those are my.
But those two colors are so
Oh, thank
beautiful
you
on
so
you.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They look
really are.
they look great. Well, can you tell us about any upcoming projects that you're excited about, or even acting? Anything with
Ooh.
teaching, I should
Yeah,
say.
yeah. Well, I do have, I did a fun little role on a Netflix show. I don't think I'm allowed to say what it is yet, but I think it's coming
Oh.
out this summer, but I don't know exactly what happens
Ooh.
when Netflix and probably all the other streamers that dub in different languages. So after they finish
Oh.
like shooting the whole season,
Oh.
then it gets sent off to, I guess, all over the world or wherever those dubbing companies are to dub it in all the different
Mm.
languages. And that takes a couple months. So I don't know exactly when it's coming out, but I will certainly shout it out, like on Instagram and everything when it
Oh,
does.
that's so cool to
Yeah.
know about the dubbing, because my
I
husband is learning
oh
Spanish
my
right
God.
now. And so we've been rewatching stuff. I haven't told you, we've been rewatching Friends because he has never seen an episode before, but in
Spanish?
Spanish with English subtitles.
That's awesome.
And you should
Oh.
see all the languages that people can stream Friends. Like, it is such a long list of like any language you can imagine is available in Friends. And I was like, wow,
Well,
that's how popular the show is. That if you speak like
Yeah.
a form of Russian, they have like all different kinds, or Ukrainian or French or whatever. It's all there. It's so crazy.
I love that.
Well, I have a funny story. My husband and I, when we watch shows, we do like to watch subtitles. We started it when we're huge Game of Thrones fans, but that's when we started like our subtitle journey because it just made it so easy to watch the show or
Yeah.
any shows on like Netflix. If it's a lot of UK or Irish
Mm.
accents, it's just easier. But it was so funny because a couple months ago, we watched a show that our mom loves Netflix, and we said that should start a TikTok like where she reviews because
Everything's
she'll
gripping.
text
Everything's
us.
gripping.
Everything's gripping. It's
That's
gripping. But she recommended the show, and we started. And I'm like, there is something wrong with our Netflix. I was gonna write to them because it kept It kept like the voices weren't
What are
matching up.
you, mom? You're gonna write Netflix?
So I know, right? So we restarted it. We troubleshooted everything. It took us days, and then finally I was like, you know what? I'm sick of my mom talking about the show, but we can't watch it, Brian, because the words aren't matching up. You know how sometimes you have to pause it for like them to catch up? Turns out it's a Swedish show where the words are just they had to like,
I know.
put it in
Like it's
English,
English, but
like
it's not matching.
dub it. Yeah, so we just got used to that, but I had to Google it because it finally said like Swedish show, and then I put two and two together, and then we got a big kick out of it. My husband and I, we started laughing. We're like, for the last few days, we've been like, Netflix sucks, and it was because it started off as it filmed in Swedish. So
so
yeah,
funny.
Those are our stories about
didn't know
dubbing.
that. I know, but it made me think of that because I got a really big laugh from it.
But we can't wait to
Yeah.
see you. And if you can keep us in touch about what it
Yeah.
is when we,
Yeah, will you share on
I
social?
certainly will. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, that's so
And now
cool.
I'll be thinking, I mean, oh my God, you look so much like Julianne Moore. I really can't get over
You
it.
really do.
I love it.
You really do.
It's such a big compliment. I mean, she's beautiful. You're beautiful. Like we hear that she's a really great person. We've heard from like numerous people who have
good.
worked with her. So
That's good to know.
yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I did want to ask, sorry, Adrian, I did want to ask, what do you, when you're out and about, just out of curiosity, and you see another redhead, do you ever feel like it's like a secret club?
Yeah,
like
little
we
you
look at them.
give
little
each
wink
other
and a smile. I think,
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
like I
wink.
said at the top, it's like, woohoo, redheads unite.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
Yeah, no, that's so
I
great. I know.
know.
So I definitely give a glare. Like, I definitely like look over and
Yeah.
recognize that
Yeah, same.
that
I give a
we're
look.
unique.
I give a
That
look.
we're unique. Even the people who dye their hair red.
Glare, like you're like sassy rawr, or like, hey there.
Yeah.
I feel like if I gave a wink, they would think that I'm like hitting on them. But yes, I do give a look. And there's a girl in my son's class. He's 3, and so it's his preschool, and she's like a sassy redhead. So every now and then I'm like, your hair is so beautiful. And she goes, thank you. But I love that because
She knows it.
and then my husband Yeah, my son the other week came home from school and was like, "Oh, that girl in my class has the same color hair as you." And I had to tell him, "Yes, we have all, I have this book about being unique." So I'm like, everyone has a different hair color, and he just can't sometimes he just randomly says it. He like can't get over the fact that, I have the same hair color as this one girl in his class. So I think it's
That's
cute.
so cute.
Adorable.
Well,
Yeah.
Kimberly,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on, and it's been so nice to get to talk to you and just
I
meet you. So
know.
thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you guys. It has been
Thank
gripping.
you.
So gripping.
Yes.
Everything's gripping.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're awesome. Thanks.